Jak, Sly, and Ratchet. When I was a kid, I didn't really have much friends. You don't say. Go away, Justin with forward-facing hat. The nerve. And not until I was a bit older anyways. And I'm gonna keep it real with y'all, I was a bit of a dorky weirdo in school. Not like I was the poopy pants kid though. That wasn't me. I wasn't the poopy pants kid. Either way, at school you could usually find me painting my Hot Wheels under my desk or drawing and inking comic books and daydreaming 24/7. You know, I never really fit in with the rest of the class, having been a ADHD basket case riddled with enough Adderall to pass an elephant through SATs. I was usually daydreaming during class or trying to write down and reciting the entire beginning intro to TLC's fan mail, which eventually my teacher found out what I was doing and took my notebook away from me and read everything I had written in front of the entire class, making me, from then on, the TLC fan mail kid with fucked up teeth. You know, I really hated school. I even hated art class. I always thought if somebody had to tell me what to draw, what's the whole point of art class? I mean, you can't use your imagination. Teachers would say, like, draw a snowman and use this technique. And I was always thinking, well, why can't I draw a house and use the same technique but on a house? Or draw a cat and a dragon riding a cat. Like, you know, I was just always, like, put in a box. And I hated art class, even though I was really into art and drawing at that point in my life, which I still am. Life as a child was fun, but also confusing, as it is with most people and most children. I found myself most of the time being so jacked up with creative energy with nowhere to put it. I would come up with really elaborate and in-depth plots for my G.I. Joes and my action figures, until one night I got my very own PS2. Along with all the classics, Kingdom Hearts, NHL Hits 2002, Tony Hawk Pro Skater, and the subject of today's video, Jak and Daxter, Sly Cooper, and Ratchet and Clank. And these games were heaven to a dorky little weirdo like me. The first game that I received for the PlayStation 2 was actually Kingdom Hearts 1, and I stayed up all night long playing and completing that game. And after that, I didn't really have much else to play aside from, you know, hockey games or Blitz or whatever. You know, I'd play the cheapest ones and the ones that came in the Pizza Hut sample packs or whatever, those demo discs. And so after I beat Kingdom Hearts, I was speechless, and I also didn't have anything to play. And it was around this time I was introduced to Jak and Daxter. I have no idea how I got the game, but somehow I obtained it. And this game, along with Sly Cooper and Ratchet and Clank, were fucking crack to my 10-year-old brain. I could not get enough of these three games. Before I played Jak and Daxter, I would play another Naughty Dog game you might have heard of, Crash Bandicoot, but that was mostly whenever I was able to go over to my cousin's house and he had the original PlayStation 1. And I distinctly remember playing a couple missions in Crash Bandicoot, the first one being Tornado Valley, where you would fly around in a little plane and gather, you know, the apples and shoot down other planes, and the weird jungle ball mission Bamboozled. At this time, I had never really invested so much time into a video game like Jak and Daxter. Not so much time, but effort and imagination, and just like totally was immersed in the game and everything about it. And you have to remember, this was during a time where the internet was called the web, or the World Wide Web. And back when, if I wanted to print out cutouts of Jak and Daxter or Crash Bandicoot, I would have to power up the old fart box and listen to this for at least 25 to 30 minutes. Around 85% of the time on any given moment in the summertime, or even during school, you would find me in my basement listening to whatever CD I stole from my dad that week, getting in my sweet, sweet playtime with my good old friends at Sony. And everywhere I went, I brought my PS2. Over to a friend's, PS2. To my grandpa's funeral 3 hours away, PS2. At my dad's house, PS2. I was inseparable from my PlayStation 2. And Don't even get me started on the amount of damage that my PS2 endured. That thing could have been filled up with Bush's best baked beans and still would have ran. There's just something about old school devices and video game consoles that they were essentially like totally unbreakable. That is until the Xbox 360 came out, which that was just a piece of junk. Immediately, it was like one of the worst consoles ever. Alright, enough rambling. Let's get into the games. The second you start up Jak and Daxter, you're greeted with a nice little cutscene sequence and introduced to the main characters of the video game, Jak and Daxter. Jak being the main protagonist and Daxter being the sidekick, which is at this point in time in his pre-transformation stage where he's just like a little elvish weirdo. It's the same race as Jak, I believe. And then he gets turned into some weird little thing called an Otzel. And if you don't know what an Otzel is, well, shut up, turkey. I'm going to tell you. It's actually a fictional hybrid of an otter and a weasel. And as useless as the 1930s DC character Arm Fall Off Boy, also known as Splitter. And I'm not joking either, go look it up. Someone actually inked and wrote a comic and comics about a guy whose only superpower is the fact that he can detach his arms and do weird shit with his butthole looking limbs after they've been detached from his body. Anyways, the characters are riding on a boat accompanied with a narration by one of the old sages and kind of like another main character of the game called Samos. Jak and Daxter are in transit to Misty Island. And on that island are some Fago-sponsored juggalos trying to harvest dark eco. This game can be extremely difficult and monotonous, often failing many times during the later boss fights of the game, or during the hovercraft lava missions. But it did get a lot easier the longer I was able to play the game. The cutscene continues and Jak and Daxter eavesdrop on the main antagonists of the game, Gaul and Maya Acheron, or Acheron, I don't know how you say that name. Jak and Daxter move on from the rock they were eavesdropping from and into a big area with a giant pool of dark eco in the middle, and I'll let you watch this little part. Now, I'm not going to give you a play-by-play of the entire game, but I will cover certain aspects of the game where I see fit. It's my video. Go make your own, idiot. During the first cutscene, you're introduced to the first mission of the game. You have to find 20 power cells in order to power up the Zoomer in order to get to the next level. The Zoomer being a hovercraft created by Kiara, Jak's love interest throughout the game. And it's needed to advance through basically every level of the game. From one level to the next level, you need to ride the Zoomer through a lava passage tube. It's really difficult, and I died many times trying to do it, because the hovercraft really isn't the easiest thing to control in the game. The main objective of the game at this point is to travel north and go see Gaul, one of the Dark Eco harvesters, which is actually one of the juggalos from the beginning cutscene, but nobody knows it yet. Gaul is expected to be able to change Daxter back to his original form, having him being the only person that knows enough about Dark Eco to do so. Also, something about the teleporter gates are off or something, and Samos wants you to turn them back on, some shit like that, I don't really remember. And our journey begins running around the starting village looking for power cells. Power cells are the game's currency and what's needed in order to advance to the next levels throughout the game. You can obtain these by smashing 7 scout flight boxes, doing tasks for the various NPCs in the game, completing obstacle courses and the puzzles in all levels, or trading in 90 to 120 precursor orbs in exchange for 1 power cell. Precursor orbs are these little egg-shaped pink orbs that are left scattered around the levels and in metal boxes and all that stuff. After this, we get a tutorial giving us the rub-down of the game. There's usually around 3 or 4 separate parts within each level, allowing us to search and scavenge through each and every nook and cranny in order to find the right amount of power cells needed to advance, which you definitely will be scavenging and running around aimlessly in order to find the amount needed, which it can get a bit ridiculous at times. And each and every time you grab a power cell, Jak and Daxter will do a little dance, which is cool at first, but they don't really mix it up a whole lot, and it's kind of like the same 5 or so different cutscene dances each time you get a power cell. You run around the first level meeting all the different villagers and completing various tasks for them. The babbling idiot mayor, the weird bird lady, the stoner guy missing his muse, and the farmer guy needing his cow creatures back to their pasture. During this first mission, there's one of my favorite interactions in the entire game. finding and hatching the bird nest egg. Also, this bird is with you for the entire game, and you have to use it for certain running platforming mini-missions. You continue on throughout the game in the same fashion, collecting power cells and riding the zoomer through lava races to advance to the level on the other side. The game gets a bit repetitive, but you don't really unlock or obtain any new moves or powers besides using different colors of eco. Each different color of eco contains a unique power-up. Green heals the player, blue allows you to run faster and operate precursor technology like moving platforms and all that. Red makes you more powerful, enough to smash metal boxes and all that stuff. And yellow gives you the ability to shoot fireballs. Each boss fight is catered to using eco in order to take down the boss. All the way to the final boss fight against Gull and Maya. The boss fights are especially repetitive and difficult, being as though you can't ever level up or increase your health, meaning 3 hits and you're dead. Similar to Sly Cooper in that regard. Overall, the game was extremely fun and a wild ride to the end, honestly. But with all that being said, I had a lot of fun replaying this game, and I'm pretty excited to play the rest of the Jak games. Jak 2 and 3, none of that other foo-foo lame shit. This game honestly gave a lot of ideas for future devs and adventure games, and I'd go as far as to say that I don't think Naughty Dog would be where they are today if not for this beautiful game. Also, fun fact before we transition to Sly Cooper, this game included death cutscenes, and I believe it was the first to ever had done something like that in a video game, which has since been in an insane amount of games to date. Well, that'll wrap up the Jak and Daxter part of this video. We're going to hop over to Sly Cooper.
Sly Cooper. Where to begin with this game? I guess with the basics, Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus is a video game developed by Sucker Punch Studios and released September 23, 2002 for the PlayStation 2. Sly is a third-person stealth performer with a grainy film noir feel to it. And no, I didn't steal that description from Wikipedia. The game gave stealth platformers a new name and really inspired other stealth games during its time. Sly has a cool, cel-shaded, cartoony-esque art style to it, which really makes it a lot of fun, oftentimes looking like a comic strip from the 1940s and 50s, which the game leans heavily into.
What are you doing?
Bye guys.
Sorry about that. I guess privacy doesn't mean anything around here. Anyways, as a child, playing this game was heaven. Around the time of me playing it, some very influential movies were being released. Batman Begins, new James Bond movies, Mission Impossible, all movies making me want to be an international spy thief. Oh, and my favorite animated movie of all time, Robin Hood. I remember I used to sneak around my house and try to fill up a glass of water or grab a plate of food. Also, remember, my aforementioned ADHD medication stole my appetite all day, and I would often eat dinner at 9 or 10 p.m. I would try to do stealth missions while at school and see if I could sneak around the hallways without being seen. Sly Cooper didn't help my desire for sneakiness. After I was finished playing Jak and Daxter, it was on to playing Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus. As a depressed 11-year-old, games that had a sense of camaraderie and brotherhood were my safe haven. The fact of running around stealing shit and sticking it to the man was a serious comfort for me. It was everything I wanted to do in real life but couldn't. Therefore, I spent a lot of time playing these games by myself and daydreaming about what it'd be like to be a real superhero badass in real life. Not to get balls deep into a YouTube video, but these games helped me out as a dorky weirdo nerdy kid that painted his Hot Wheels during lunch at school. Moving forward, Sly picks up a stealth mission in Paris where the player character is tasked with stealing some shit. Then halfway through the mission, the international baddie Carmelita Fox shows up. She's also Sly's love interest and shoots at you, causing a cool little chase sequence. Sly jumps into the van and the gang drives away. And here you're introduced to Sly's gang, Bentley, the annoying turtle hacker man, and Murray, the brute giant hippo that eats a lot and drives the van. After you give Carmelita the slip, you look over the police file all about Sly that we just stole from her office safe. What ensues is Sly basically giving the player some backstory about his family, and main mission is to track down the torn out pages of the Thievius Raccoonus book and avenge our ancestors. First boss is Sir Raleigh the Frog. This guy is a technological wizard and has a large boat within his hideout. The missions and levels are very similar to Jak and Daxter, having multiple stages within one main level. Each stage and levels throughout the game, you obtain keys in order to unlock the next stage of the mission. In each mission, there are different gimmicks and puzzles, also with a secret safe in each mission. If you gather 40 or 50 bottles, which are clues, you can unlock a new attack move from one of the safes in each mission. One of the fun gimmicks I enjoyed were the barrel missions, basically where you hop in a barrel and get shot by turrets while walking inside the barrel. Sly Cooper is not a long game at all, maybe 7.5 hours or so, and the game has 5 bosses with 5 different parts of the Thievius Raccoonus. All the bosses are as follows: Sir Riley, Mugshot, Miss Ruby, the Panda King, and Clockwork. And all of the boss battles have their own little fun twist, but all in all, they just go as usual as any boss fights do. Miss Ruby, I thought, had an interesting twist involving pattern recognition and repetitive button pressing in one big sequence. Once all 5 parts of the Thievius are obtained, the game is over, with Clockwork being the final boss of the game. His lair proved to be pretty difficult and tedious. Clockwork is an ancient being that has opposed the Cooper family for generations. You defeat him and finish the game. When Sly is finished, you actually unlock an anime intro, a cool little twist if you ask me. And I'll play it at the end of this video, so make sure you stick around or skip ahead to watch it. Something I think this game did terribly was its minigames. I'd argue that they are absolutely the worst things to be in the game. From the mandatory races in the van all the way to the weird Bentley hacker missions that made me want to pull my fucking hair out. It would have been a lot more fun if these were crafted in a way that allowed fun to be possible. I understand the devs wanting to switch things up and add some more colorful gameplay. They wanted to add in their own little Mario Kart racing type deal, but it just wasn't close to that at all. And I'd prefer literally drowning in my cousin's pool over playing any of these little mini games in this entire game. They all suck and are terrible. But Sly Cooper was overall a very fun game aside from that, and it provided to be an interesting twist to adventure games back in the day, giving me hours upon hours of my life playing it as a kid. It's definitely better than that one Hulk game for the Game Boy SP, also known as Gay Boy Small Penis. Moving on from Jak and Sly, we come to my least favorite of all the 3, but still recognized as one of my favorite games as a child. Ratchet and Clank was an amazing IP developed by Insomniac Games and released on November 4th, 2002. Being another third-person shooter released at one of the most pinnacle times for video games, Ratchet and Clank garnered a lot of success during its time, earning it to have like 19 sequels after that, with still another one on the way. I mean, they really were extremely successful after this game, and it put Insomniac on the map, and as far as I'm concerned. The game starts with Ratchet crash landing on a planet and shortly after meeting Clank. It's a typical repeated story trope about saving the world from an egomaniac supervillain that also resembles a nutsack on a dried and treated piece of wood. I didn't get too far into this game as a child. I would mostly run around and kill shit and never make it past the first few levels. So returning to this game and beating it was pretty interesting. The story is cliche, but still fun. It teaches a lesson about meeting your heroes and having them not be what you expected, which of course as an 11-year-old I missed and went right over my head. Captain Quark being the main intergalactic hero that turns out to be a piece of shit narcissistic Hollywood actor. Being in cahoots with the enemy, of course, trying to save his own skin by siding with the main villain of the game. And of course, Captain Quark isn't always an enemy, eventually becoming an ally in the later games to come. You continue through Ratchet and Clank, earning bolts and defeating enemies and obtaining various power upgrades and guns, along with different interesting gadgets which greatly change up your playstyle. While obtaining the metal magnet boots, you're able to reach unaccessed places that you couldn't get to before. With the underwater thrusters, you can get further in levels that were previously drenched underwater. The only thing that gets a little old is having to go back to previously visited planets in order to further the story. There's a lot of backtracking in this game. Around the hovercraft race mission is where I got stuck at as a kid, and decided to move on to playing Sphinx instead. But I also got stuck on that game and gave up towards the end. Also, Sphinx is a game I will be reviewing in the near future, being that that game was one of my favorites as well. scratching the itch that reading the Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief books gave me. I guess this video is more so about how much of a lonely, nerdy kid I was playing these kinds of video games and how it really helped me cope with the weird G.I. Joe kid stigma I was stuck with throughout elementary school. Not only did these games help me get through the lonely and awkward early years of my life, but they helped me evolve my imagination. I think if it wasn't for these games being a part of my everyday life, I wouldn't be the person I am today. These games taught me a lot of things as a kid. Perseverance, imagination, brotherhood, good and evil, always choosing light over dark. Even though I definitely thought when it came to the Star Wars universe that the Sith were way cooler than the Jedi, except for Kit Fisto, I always thought that dude was dope and he really did get murked in a hella disrespectful way. Anyways, this video has gone on for a while now, so I think I'll just wrap it up. This was more of a diary than a game critique, honestly. These games were the games that really got me into video games. And I'm not talking about driving around in GTA San Andreas or sprinting around inside the Deku tree for 4 hours in Ocarina. Make sure to subscribe to this channel for more videos and join the Discord for video ideas and whatnot. Also, I stream frequently on Twitch, so make sure to check me out over there. Yeah. Peace out, Girl Scout. That's the end of the video. Go away. Here, watch this if you're still bored. But go away after. I don't have anything else for you.
俺様たちの勝ちだ。このデータファイルがあれば父ちゃんの敵が撃てる。あれはまだ俺が子供の頃だ。よく父ちゃんの膝の上で遊んでたっけ。俺様の一族は代々伝わる義族の家系。そして受け継がれた技をまとめたのがこのラクーナの秘伝書だ。その洗練を極めた忍びの技だが、そこには必ず守らなければいけない厳しい掟があった。義族たる者、名誉にかけて狙うは悪党のみ、善人からは奪わない。ところが俺様が秘伝書を受け継ぐことになった夜、突然5人のギャングがやってきた。奴らは俺を守ろうとした父ちゃんを、そしてとうとう見つけ出してしまったんだ。大切なラクーナの秘伝書を。奴らは俺様の全てを奪いやがった。きっと中に書かれた技を使って悪いことをしでかすに違いねえ。そして俺様は一人ぼっち町の孤児院に入った。だがここで素晴らしい仲間に出会ったんだ。天才発明家、頼れる相棒ベントレー、そしてマーレ。食いしん坊でちょっとドジだがまあ憎めない弟分さ。仲間と一緒に俺様は父ちゃんの敵を討ち、そして秘伝書を取り返す。クーパーの名前に恥じない義族になれるか、それとも失敗してご先祖の顔に泥を塗るのか。さあ俺様たちの運命はどっちだ。